Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's November 30th, 2014, and this week we're going to be working on how to create phrasing between our scale box positions. And this week's question was sent in from Dale. He's out in Evansville, Wyoming, and he wrote in with this email: I am trying to get out of phrasing within scale box positions. Unfortunately, when I get over to another area, I just phrase in another box again. Is there a way to do it more like B.B. King plays phrase lines between the box positions? I think I just need to get a new way of thinking about this. Maybe a couple of examples would be nice to try out as well. Thanks for everything you do, from Dale in Evansville, Wyoming, USA. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Dale. For a lot of guitar players, breaking away from the scale box positions can be a very frustrating time. We tend to learn our scales, how to solo and how to phrase lines in mostly vertical ways. So after hours of memorization like that, it can be really tough to start thinking about the scales in a more horizontal fashion. So in this lesson, I'll start with a couple scale positions and discuss how the positions can be approached in different ways to help get your melodic ideas phrased more between the box positions. I'll also demonstrate some guitar licks that operate with their phrasing running between those box positions as well. So let's zoom in on the neck and get started. Well, these examples in the video are all going to be in the key of B minor, using the B minor pentatonic scale. Well, first I'd like to choose two scales that border upon each other, and we'll use the positions as a bridge to eventually move toward phrasing between the two box positions. Now, the first pattern I have is a B minor pentatonic off the 6th string in 4th position. It's rooted off that B there at the 7th fret, and here's how it sounds. Okay, now we're going to organize the next box position that we'll be using for the video. It borders right against our first shape. The second shape, though, is one of the most popular minor pentatonic box positions used by guitar players. I'm sure you'll probably recognize it. It goes like this. It's a pretty popular one, just rooted right there at the 7th fret of the 6th string in 7th position. So we're going to use those two, that one and this one here. We're going to use those two that are right up against one another, and we're going to do some work with them so you can begin understanding how to phrase between two box positions. Right, now let's have a run through a really great way to practice becoming comfortable playing between two adjacent scale box positions. Now, this idea, it's going to use a lot of slides to do, I guess what you might just call zigzag along from one scale box shape to another. But since we're also trying to work on our phrasing, when you start creating your own zigzag moves on the neck, spend extra time trying to, trying to make the best kind of cycle moving between the two box patterns as a well-phrased idea. Have it be as well-phrased as possible. In other words, make these ideas that you come up with nearly good enough that you could probably start using them eventually in a guitar solo. Now, mind you, still, these are exercise kinds of ideas, so, the main idea of it overall is to go between the two box shapes and start getting familiar with kind of, ripping between them and just kind of like cycling along the neck in a real lateral manner. Now, here's an example of what I came up with for this video. First, here it is a little slower. Now again, you can hear that's over that sound of B minor. And I'm just starting off here more in that shape that falls to the headstock there. But I'm sliding forward right away. But then sliding backward immediately. And staying in that position for a moment, and then jumping forward to the new position, then sliding out back to the other box pattern, and then up again, and then staying there for a moment, and then sliding back over, and kind of ending in that region again. So, it's a lot of movement laterally on the neck, but you can hear, if you plan these out, they sound kind of neat, kind of an interesting idea, and you can come up with quite a few of these concepts. You can tell they're very horizontal in their layout, but as you work on them and you take them between other patterns and you really try to stress the main ideas, as we had mentioned there, about phrasing, as best as possible, which means, have interesting kinds of connections between the notes so that you're not maybe hitting a lot of unison notes. And that's a problem that you might run into when you start trying to create these. You nail a lot of unison tones in there, but it's a lot of fun to do. And as you're getting better at it, you have better cycling and better chance to get really cool phrasing ideas together. So here it is one more time. Well, now let's start checking on how we can get some phrasing going on between these two adjacent box positions in B minor here. In the first example that I have, we'll be doing some phrasing just using some strict eighth notes with the target tone, of course, being the tonic note of the scale. So we're going to be targeting right into the B note every time there. We'll have two of them that we'll target to, though, the 9th fret of 4th string as well as the 4th fret of the 3rd string, both those unison B notes there. So here's how the phrase goes along. You can hear how just the tonal response of the note is so interesting as you move through the different B's, and then even the different notes overall, because these are all the same tones between these two patterns, but it's just a different kind of tone that you get out of a note maybe being on a wound string or on a non-wound string. It's a really interesting idea. I'm going to play that phrase for you one more time. All right, let's move on. My last final example before we wrap up here is going to be a little bit of faster idea. Its phrasing uses the same rhythmic meter between each of the melodic parts. It also applies the same techniques across the ideas in respect to the embellishments we're going to use. We're going to have some pull-off, slide, hammer-on, pull-off ideas going on. Now, the melodic idea I have is the two-part phrase. It's going to use two individual statements that share the same rhythm between the two box patterns. So each idea is going to operate between both of our box position scales, and all of it's going to come together to really complement both halves of the phrase. Now, I highly suggest working to develop several melodic ideas phrased like this between the box positions. It's an excellent way to get your phrases moving between the two positions, and it's going to help you get accustomed to some quick horizontal movement as well. So anyway, I'm going to go through the lick now. What happens is we have a series of 16th notes that start things off. So we're just going to move between the shapes like that. You see, I'm starting on the upper shape. Then when I've dropped into the lower shape, what I'm going to do is a hammer-on, pull-off idea there that's very quick because it's going to be a 16th note triplet. So that's how it comes together. Now what we're going to do next is kind of transfer over. You can tell I'm working a lot on the first and second strings. I'm going to transfer that over next to the second and third strings. I'm doing a grace note slide to kind of take us back around again to that B note. So here's the second one again. Okay, and here's both of them now put together. So those kinds of ideas are really interesting to mess around with. You can even just keep continuing it down the neck. Depending on the position that you're in and so forth, you can come up with all kinds of different phrases like this, because what we're really doing is we're phrasing a part with the same rhythmic meter idea and the same embellishments, between the two halves of the box pattern. So it's really not that hard to figure these things out, but you can see that they're very interesting. I'm going to play it for you one more time here. Well, it pretty much goes without saying that a large group of the world's best guitar players have become very competent at phrasing their lines between these box positions. Whether we're listening to B.B. King, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Hendrix, or dozens of other great players, the list could just go on and on. They've really got this sort of thing down in their playing. And, with proper study and practice on blending box positions horizontally, any guitarist can develop the skill skills to do this too. Just keep a commitment to having your lines be melodic and also bridge the ideas that you come up with through similar rhythmic meters. That's going to make a big difference. If you just start with these two concepts, you'll be well on your way to develop some great ideas when you're phrasing your scales between the box positions. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now. If you'd like to learn the modes and really get an understanding how they can be used musically to write songs, play a solo, or compose melody lines, then you're in luck. My ebook, Using the Major Scale Modes, is a comprehensive manuscript outlining exactly how modes are used both in harmony and to compose melodic ideas. Over 50 pages of scale patterns, example progressions, and music theory all create one of the most comprehensive methods on the modes available. Using the Major Scale Modes is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com.